show you my method of making homemade yogurt. It is super easy and you do not require any special equipment. I actually learned this recipe from an Iranian girlfriend who was taught to make it by her mother, and her mother learned from her mother. So they've been making yogurt this way for generations, and I've been making yogurt this way for years, and it always works for me. Now, it goes without saying that yogurt has all kinds of probiotics, which is very good for gut health. The process that the milk undergoes in order to turn into yogurt is we introduce a bacteria or a culture into the milk. In this case, it's going to be our yogurt. That bacteria will feed on the lactose, which is the milk sugar, and it will convert it into lactic acid. Now, this process through the fermentation, the lactic acid is what will thicken the milk and give it that sour flavor that we recognize in yogurt. So what do we need? We need a pot with a lid. We need a couple of blankets. We'll need a sieve and some cheesecloth, a small bowl or a measuring cup, a spoon to stir, a spoon, and our starter and our milk. Now, I would recommend using whole milk. You're going to get a much creamier and thicker yogurt. You can use 2%, but the yogurt isn't quite as thick. Your starter has to be a plain yogurt. You can buy any kind you like, whether it's organic or just from the grocery store, but it has to be plain. You don't want any additional sugars or flavorings or colors or anything added to it. So as pure as you can get it in terms of it being plain. I am going to be using kefir today. Now, kefir has 3 times the amount of probiotics than regular yogurt. So I'm hoping that that is going to give me even a better yogurt in terms of the probiotics that are in it. So to get started, all we need is milk. I am using whole milk today. The fatter the milk, the thicker the yogurt. So if you use 2%, you're going to get a yogurt that isn't quite as thick. And I would not recommend trying to use 1%. You really want to use the whole milk because that is going to give you a sweeter and thicker yogurt. So I'm going to be using a bag and a half of yogurt today, which is about 1.5 liters. So we're just going to pour that in to our pot. And we are going to bring it up to not a boiling point. We're going to heat it up until we see bubbles forming on the surface and you see a little whiff of smoke coming off the top. In order to do that, you have to put it on medium heat, and it will take about maybe 15 minutes to bring it up to that temperature. Now, the ideal temperature that you have to bring it up to is 180 degrees. But I'm going to show you that you don't actually need a thermometer to do this. Once you have the bubbles forming on top and the smoke, it's the right time to take it off the heat. So I'm going to put this on the stove and I'll come back to show you the bubbles. So our milk has been warming on medium heat. I've just turned off the heat because, as you can see, it is starting to form these small bubbles. You don't want it to boil, and it's starting to smoke. And I'm not sure if you can see the smoke, but I can see the smoke. And that's the perfect temperature to warm your milk up to. The ideal temperature to reach is 180 degrees. So let's see what the thermometer says. Okay, so it's 177.2, which is close enough. If you don't have a thermometer, that's why I'm showing you the bubble and the smoke method on how to determine the right temperature. So now that it's turned off, I'm just going to take it off the stove and let it cool until it's about 110 degrees. So it's been about 30 minutes and I've let my milk cool. The outside of the pot it feels warm, but it's not too warm to be able to touch it. And the true test is to insert your pinky finger and count for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 9, 10. And I can hold it there comfortably. The milk is warm, but it doesn't burn my finger. And just out of curiosity, we're trying to achieve 110 degrees, technically speaking, but let's just see what the thermometer says. So it's at 110, if you can see it, which is the perfect temperature. Now the next step is to add our bacteria to the milk. And just a word of caution, if the milk is too hot, it will destroy the bacteria and you will not get yogurt forming. So it has to be at a warm temperature, slightly warmer than body temperature, and you will feel that when you insert your finger. Now we're gonna add about a tablespoon for every 2 cups. I've got 1.5 liters. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of my yogurt. And in this case, it's kefir. So about 3 tablespoons for this amount. I'm gonna take some of the warm milk and I'm gonna add it to my yogurt. And I'm just going to mix it until it's all dissolved. I'd recommend, now that you've achieved the perfect temperature for your yogurt, put the lid on, because you really want to hold in that heat, and that's part of the fermentation process. The milk is going to stay warm while it ferments, and this bacteria turns into the lactic acid, which will start to thicken the milk. So basically, you want to dissolve the yogurt so it's smooth. You don't want any lumps. It's pretty easy to do. And it's warmed, so you've brought it up to almost the same temperature as the milk. And then you're going to add the mixture to your milk. And you're going to just stir it in. You want to combine it. Don't overdo it. You don't want to cool it down. And that's it. Just make sure it's mixed all the way through the milk. You're going to immediately put your lid on, and you're going to immediately wrap it in the 2 blankets, or the towel and the blanket like I've got on the other side. So I'm going to take this over to the other side and show you what to do next. So as you can see, I have my blanket and I have a towel, and now I'm going to take my pot with its lid on. You want to incubate it for the time that it takes for the yogurt to start thickening. And then I'm going to wrap it with the blanket. And you want to make sure it's nice and tight. So you're insulating this now for 4 hours. Now 4 hours is the minimum that it will take for it to form into your yogurt. You can let it sit in a warm place for up to 24 hours. I have made it that way. However, I find that the longer you let it sit, the tartar the yogurt will become. So 4 hours is the perfect amount of time for me, where it's the yogurt is still sweet and it's creamy and it's thick. However, if you forget about it and you let it go for an extra hour or 2, don't worry about it, because it will still form the yogurt. So now you're going to put this in a warm spot, and do not touch it, do not peek, don't do anything until the 4 hours have passed, and then you can open it up. If it hasn't firmed because your room temperature for whatever reason is cooler, or it's cooled down too much, you can let it sit for longer. So let's wait 4 hours and we'll see what we've got. See you in 4. 4. So here you have the yogurt, and there's an awful lot of whey that has come off it. So now I'm going to strain it with my scoop. And I'm going to, and you could eat the yogurt just like this, but I'm actually going to strain it through Gruyere cheesecloth because I want an even thicker consistency to my yogurt. So that is yogurt 101. So I let my yogurt sit for a couple of hours to strain until I got the consistency I liked, and then I popped it in the fridge overnight. And I got this beautiful, thick, creamy, and sweet yogurt, as you can see. And one of my favorite ways of having the yogurt is in this little, this is actually a juice glass, and all I did was zest a little bit of lemon, which gives you the lemon flavor without having to use the lemon juice. Obviously, it would curdle the yogurt. Some golden raisins, a drizzle of honey, and then I've just garnished it with a little bit of lemon balm. So that combination is really delicious, whether you have it for breakfast or as a dessert. As a byproduct of making the yogurt, I was able to collect this much whey. And whey is very nutritious. It's also a probiotic, as is the yogurt, and it's very high in protein. As a matter of fact, bodybuilders have been using whey protein to develop their muscles for decades. So this is a very, very good liquid to keep. It will stay in your fridge for months on end, 2-3 months, without going bad. It has virtually no calories, and it has a slight flavor of tartness, which mimics where it came from, which is the yogurt. So I love to use this in a smoothie. Basically, in my blender, you just want to pop in 4 or 5 ice cubes. I added some of the whey to it, a tablespoon of my homemade strawberry rhubarb sauce. You can add a couple of fresh berries and a tablespoon of the honey. And then you just blend it together. And because of the protein, it really helps with keeping your appetite down. And it tastes great. Very few calories. And look how pretty it is. Light pink. It's really good. It's almost as good as a milkshake without all the sugar and the chemicals that you're getting from store-bought products. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. I hope you make yogurt and you're successful with it. And I hope that you share it with all the people that you know. So enjoy.